First, let's take a look at the global manufacturing output share of the big seven countries over the past 200 plus years. During the mid 18th century, China and India dominated manufacturing output, producing handmade goods at an astonishing rate, and together they held more than 55% of global manufacturing output. That was the state of the world just before the Industrial Revolution truly kicked in. However, shortly after this, the British East India Company took control of India circa 1757, forcing them to take a back seat as the Industrial Revolution began in Britain. China managed to hold the top spot in manufacturing production up until about 1860, but its isolationist policies, government corruption, and rebellions quickly spread across the country and they watched their manufacturing dominance fade. The Industrial Revolution provided most of Europe the innovation capability to expand their manufacturing production. By 1860, Britain held the top spot, owning over 23% of the world's manufacturing output. This was the Industrial Revolution. The United States, a relatively new country at that time, followed Europe's lead and joined the Industrial Revolution. Yet they struggled to keep up with Britain. But as we now know from earlier videos, the utilization of the tariff and crucial R&D spending within the United States allowed it to take over, and as we entered the 20th century, the U.S. became not only the largest manufacturing nation in the world, but the largest economy in the world, reaching a peak manufacturing share of 45% following World War II. As we headed into the 1960s and 70s, the United States started to take this dominance for granted as businesses began outsourcing for cheaper manufacturing costs. Products on the shelf in U.S. stores went from made in America to made in Japan, as Japan managed to overtake Western technology, especially in automobiles. Japan then found themselves in the midst of its own financial crisis in the late 1990s, and their overall economy ground to a halt, leaving room for China to claw their way back to the top after well over a century and a half of lagging behind. By the early 2000s, China had been allowed into the World Trade Organization. We were instrumental in opening that access, and its economy took off.